This is Dan, and he represents taxpayers in Australia. Now, Dan wants to lodge his 2020 tax return because it is after the 1st of July. This is Michelle. Now, Michelle represents bookkeepers and BAS agents, accountants and tax agents, and business owners in Australia. Now, Dan is really eager to get his 2020 tax return lodged via the ATO. Dan needs to realise is that Michelle, who represents business owners, accountants, and bookkeepers, has the following things on her list to do from the 1st of July, being JobKeeper reporting, STP filing, very important, as well as things like June BAS, June Super, severe end, and obviously as a tax agent you can lodge 2020 tax returns. Now, the priority for Michelle at the very start of July will be JobKeeper reporting because that is due on the 14th, as well as STP filing, which is due on either the 14th or the 31st of July, depending on how big the business is. What happens is we have Dan wanting to lodge his 2020 tax return, and this means that Michelle, who's representative of 3 different groups, needs STP filing to be done. Now, until that is done, and remembering that she has a little bit of time to get it done, and understanding that there's lots of clients, businesses, etc. That she has to get through, Dan will potentially have to wait for this to happen, because that gets reported to the ATO by the due date, and then Dan can get his tax return lodged and it should be all done. Now, this is just an example based on STP filing. There are other situations that we have to wait for other reporting to get through to the ATO. But in the case that Dan lodges the tax return prior to this being done, there's a risk that this tax return is completely wrong. What we saw happen on the 1st of July, Michelle's plugging away, getting a whole lot of stuff done, trying to lodge to the ATO, and what happens is the ATO portal crashes. So, due to an overload of the system and the traffic, sometimes you run into some problems. Yay. So the moral of this story is, dear taxpayers, please be patient with us because the start of the financial year is pretty crazy. Sometimes systems crash, and well, we want you to lodge your tax return right the first time and not have to make any changes or get the wrong refund or tax payable because we are still finalizing things at our end. In theory, your MyGov should be able to confirm or let you know when your STP filing has been lodged by the appropriate person, so then you can start looking at preparing your 2020 tax return. If you're unsure, the best thing to do is probably ask the right person in your business where you work at if it's been done. If not, just wait until the end of the month, wait until August, because you don't want to get that tax return wrong. And when things go wrong, like a total portal meltdown, there is wine.